Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to the stream. This is Sir William Dearden, and I will be coming to you, talking to you about the truth of making money. Now, I will try my best to go into the various aspects of this, but before I go into the truth about making money, I need to tell you about the idea, the concept of how money is even created. All right. So most of our money that we have out in the market in the public is a combination of a couple things: debt and the backing of the Federal Reserve. Now, the best understanding of this is what I mentioned on a previous cast in regard to our stimulus checks. Now, I will be coming at this from perspective of the US dollar from fiat money, but I will be talking about precious metals and more. Now, to begin, the Federal Reserve is the primary organization, the company, the private holder and owner, technically, of the American money. Once they print the money, is then, or even before that, it's kind of just determined by a mix of exchanges with the US government as to how much money needs to go out, how much money needs to be destroyed and burned and melted down, and how much of a backing do we need and have in regard to precious metals. Now, why do I bring up precious metals and I'm talking about truth of making money, the truth of fiat money? Now, the reason is because most of the money that you're familiar with, most of the fiat paper money, for the most part, isn't real. Now, it's real in the sense that it is given to you for your time. It is real in the sense that from that converted time to fiat money, you can go exchange it for goods and services and products that you need. So it's real in the sense that you can use it, but it is not real in the sense that the worth of it is relatively arbitrary. Now, you might be kind of confused in that, and the worth is mainly determined by the worth of the vote that's in the Federal Reserve. Now, they make money through an exchange of, I guess, governmental communication, dissemination, and an exchange of debt, essentially. Because going back to the stimulus checks, what the Federal Reserve, in conjunction with the government, did to, I guess, help, it's kind of ambiguous whether that's really needed or not, but the idea was that the government went to the Federal Reserve and had the Federal Reserve print two coins. The first coin was a representation and a backing of the money that went out to the American people. Of course, that money, like I said, trickled down to the various organizations from the highest levels of government and the military to the banks to the airports to eventually down to you and me with that one time $1,200 check. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, wow, Nation, you're about 5 minutes into the cast and you have not told the nation the real truth about making money, and that is how to make money. So let me go into that. In school and growing up, in your family, in society, the majority of us is taught to go out into the marketplace, go out into the world, we get a job, and that job will pay us. Ideally, if we work well for the rest of our lives, so we can build up a good retirement, live out the last 10 years of our life in whatever luxury that we can, and then that's it. We are taught that our time given is worth a certain amount, and that amount is our salary. For then, usually, we are employees. Now, I'm sure you know the hierarchy in terms of owner, employer, employee, and entrepreneur. These four segments, compartments, can be further explored in private reading. On the side, I recommend Robert Kiyosaki. Was it Robert? Robert Kiyosaki. I always mess up his last name. Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah. You guys can look up Rich Dad Poor Dad and go into that. I will advise against MLMs, but everything else in that book is great for you to learn about making money and how each of us are given and go through these transformations of making money to where we usually start in the employee bracket. You know, you're a kid, 15, 16, out here making $7, $8 an hour at your local Walmart, gas station, food, retail spot. Now, this is usually our first real job. But I do have a little story to tell you, because this story is kind of small, but it might be the most impactful and most important thing that I may ever tell you, that you may need to know. So, going on what you see there in the background here, the Candyman cometh. Who is the Candyman? Growing up as a young boy, I went to a school, many schools, till eventually I came across this middle school, not middle school, I came across an opportunity in high school to which I could sell items, make a little money, and for the most part provide for myself as a kid. Now, I'm not talking about paying rents and clothes and this and that, but hear me out. So, as a kid of, let's say, like I said, I was high school, so I guess that could be in that 15, 16-year-old age range. So when I was 15, maybe even 14, I forget, I was young in high school, early high school. When I was a ninth grader in high school, I was like, all right, I like candy. And so does everyone else. If I use my allowance money, my birthday money, my Christmas money, any money that I was able to get for maybe even doing chores, helping out family, anything, I would take that money and I would convert most of my money into candy. Now, I know this sounds crazy, but this little metaphor analogy will go a long way. Hear me out. I took my money, converted it into candy. I would take $1 and buy an 8-pack of individual Reese cups. Okay. I would sell all of the Reese cups except for maybe one for 25 cents each. So in that little moment, I was able to eat my candy, give candy to my community and those who wanted the product. And if I didn't eat my little one singular piece, take $1 and convert it into two. So I kept doing that over and over and over again. $1 into $2, $2 into four, four into eight, eight into 16, 16, 32, 32, 64, so on and so forth. Now I wasn't out here making hundreds and hundreds and thousands of dollars, but I made enough money, which I really didn't care about. Not that I didn't have a value of the money, but my goal was to further convert that money, the new gains, into something that I wanted, something that I wanted to view daily. And this was, of all things, VHS tapes. Now, I know this is 2020 and VHS tapes aren't that popular, but back in the early 2000s, that was my go to. I'd come home after school, pop in a VHS tape, and I'd record all of my favorite shows because I didn't have no DVR. I didn't have TiVo. I had a VCR, but I didn't have these. I couldn't pause it. I couldn't rewind it. If I came home after school and missed a show, an episode, I just missed that episode. So what I usually do, and honestly, I couldn't even set my VCR. What I would do is I would come home, immediately take those VHS tapes, and record up to 8 hours worth of video content. So for $1, I was able to take that $1, make it into $2. Eat one of the Reese cups. Now I'm down to $1.75. I take $1 from that $1.75, buy a VHS tape. Now I have over 8 hours worth of video content. On top of having my remainder 75 cents going back into the company, into my product. Now, this might be the most simplistic understanding of how the richest people in the world make money. They take their $1, their $1 million, they will convert it into something. And they might not even convert all of it. They might just convert $900,000 of that money into something. Let's say we take $900,000, put that into real estate, put that into a mobile business. You get the point. But they take that money, put it, heck, you can even put it in a mutual fund, a Roth IRA, and stocks. You can put your money in places to where your money will make you money. Whether you're awake, whether you're sleeping, whether you're on vacation, whether you're in the bathroom, your money will be making you money. And now, the Candyman example wasn't fully automatic, but it was a good example to give to you to convert your money into one thing, sell that one thing, take some money from that thing, convert it once again into something that you really want, and use the rest of that money however you like, whether, like I said, back into the business as an investment or you just eat it up yourself. Now, I will say it is not good to just eat up all your candy, eat up all your product. Why? Because you won't be able to make any money. And I know that sounds like a crazy idea, a crazy concept. If I waste all my money, I won't make money because I can't have it producing and working for me. Now, that was just one small example of the truth about making money that is analogous to an owner making money, someone like a Grant Cardone, a could even say Robert Kiyosaki. I always mess up that word. Robert Kiyosaki. Trying to think of some other good examples. Jay-Z. That's a good business example. Damon John, Fubu. There are tons of examples out there to show you of someone who owns something. Could even look at Andrew Schultz, the comedian, someone who owns a product, a service of sorts, even if it's a community service of laughter, who's taking that service and converting it into something for you. Now, the employer has a bit of a different mindset. Their idea and mentality is more in regard to human resources. And that's where the whole HR department and all that craziness come into play. Now, whether you may or may not have an HR department, it doesn't really matter. Your employer will still have this mindset of using human resources, usually, as the workers, the cattle, the machines to crank out their personal product at ideally the cheapest wages possible to make them the highest earnings possible. Now, this is often where the mindset and idea and saying of you'll never become a millionaire working for somebody comes into play. Because your millionaire boss will never pay you $1 million. Your millionaire boss might not even pay you even anywhere close to 50K. Why? Because you are there to make money for him. You are there to maximize the company's profit margin. This is where the whole sales things also come into play in terms of, oh, our company made $2 million in sales. Oh, our car sales company made $500,000 in car sales last year. Great, great. That's what the company slash boss made. And that's not even the gross earnings. That's what the company made. That's not what you made. You may be that person out there pushing. You know, maybe you're the guy who's out there who's good enough to sell 2 or 3 cars a day, per day, Monday through Friday. Heck, if you work on the weekends too, per day, every day. Maybe you're that good. But despite being that good, you will never make the money that your manager or boss will make unless you either take that managerial position, which often means that manager aging out, quitting, retiring. They might have had an accident, might have had health problems, family issues, any issues, for you to move up to that role. But the problem comes in is once you get to that managerial role, even the senior managerial role, you're still not the boss. You still won't make what your boss makes. Now, I could say never, but that's not the case. You can make what your boss makes, if not more, almost if and only if you move laterally in terms of leaving that company, taking your skills elsewhere to another company. And ooh, I know that's frowned upon. Ooh, the company's family. Ooh, live and die by the company. Ooh. You take your skill set, you move to a different company, and did you know, statistically, factually, the truth is most employers, most people, not even employers, most employees and most people make more money, up to 40 and 50% more money by leaving their company and go into another company. Now, I'm not sure if you've experienced this. I've experienced this, or rather, I've experienced each of these four categories: owner, employer, employee, entrepreneur. I've explored and had dealings with in all of them in various capacities. Now, 40 to 50% is a big deal. If you're making 50K, 50% more, that bumps you up to 75K. That's a huge deal. A $25,000 difference. That could be a payment on your loans. That could be the payment on your house. That could be you putting your children through school. So the truth is, you have to make more money and find the best possible fit. Now, there are people, and many people do this, like many of our parents and grandparents before us, play the safest route. Like I said, find a company who will ideally pay you for the rest of your life. But it's currently 2020, and I honestly don't even think that's realistic anymore. There might still be companies out there, but ever since I'd say the 2007, 2008 recession, and even now the 2019, 2020 global pandemic, it's no longer feasible to even consider working for most companies for the rest of your life. Why? Because they just can't pay you. Maybe they have to downsize because you had to move out of your 5,000 square foot office space with your fellow 20, 30, 50 employees. And now all of you are home working on Zoom from your computer, from your desk, and you're just, I don't want to say out of sorts, but you're a little bit out of sorts. You're out of sorts because you don't know when you'll be going back into the office. You don't know if they'll be phasing you out. You might have already seen a bunch of layoffs happen, because the truth is, once again, about making this money, is that when a global pandemic, when a major event happens in regard to the money, this could be the misuse of loans, of debt, student loan. This could be company spending. But reality is, in this day and age, many companies are cutting back extremely fast and in large amounts. I can definitely relate to those out there who have had their various share of positive and negative experiences in all of this. I'm right there with you. Now, we talked about the owner in terms of, I guess you're more so an investor, really. So let me just put that in there instead of the owner. So you're investor, employer, employee, and entrepreneur. The investor will take his $1 million, the Candyman, take that $1 million and do their best to double the money. It's a game of doubles. All of it is doubles. That's the point to all of it. I know that sounds crazy. What do you mean the point of all this is just to double my money? I mean, is it not? I mean, don't you want to make more than your 16-year-old self at 32? Wouldn't you want to make twice as much as that 16-year-old version of yourself? And in fact, I heard a good indicator of what your amount could be is in terms of if you're went to the right career, because it's all based on career opportunity, where you live at in the country, what country you live in, what class and society you are. Yes, that also plays a factor. What your race might be, that plays a factor. And before you all get so triggered, the race thing will play a factor because humans are tribal. Humans like people who are like them. That's what we are. So if you are at a company, they will try to make you as homogenous, as identical as possible. This is where all the company policies come into play. This is where dress codes come into play. All of this is a factor. But being tribal, there are companies, not all, who will only hire their own. Now, this is both good and bad. I am definitely for the benefit of local communities. So, whether you're black, white, Asian, Mexican, European, African, Australian, New Zealand, Micronesian, whatever you are, wherever you are, this will most likely come into play. Now, ideally, your local community will be benefiting from this tribal inclusion if that's what you want to help. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Now, it's only wrong when the far extreme ideologies come into play, but there's nothing wrong with to wanting to be a part of a tribe. Personally, I prefer tribes that are a bit more mixed, cohesive. Maybe that's my mentality. Maybe that's my shade. Maybe that's my upbringing talking. Who knows? Could be all three, could be none of it. But I do like people who, and tribes who, are not just purely groupthink, because that's how most companies and employers fall on their own sword. What do they call that? The sword of Damocles? Now, I think we talked about employees in terms of the employer is trying to make as much money as possible off you. Now, the only thing I will add on to that is, like the products that we encounter in stores, you're not much different. I know that it's kind of crazy to say that we're not much different than a product offered in a store, but hear me out. When a store buys their product wholesale, they're never selling that to you for the price that they bought. Why? Because they won't make money. More often than not, they are marking each and every single individual product up from 300 to 500%, from 3 to 5 times what they paid for it. If they paid for it $1, they're selling it to you for 5. So that, let's say, I don't know, $5 steak you was able to get on sale. That's not what they paid for. They might have paid, like I said, $1, $2 for it because they bought it in wholesale. And this is how they maximize their profits. This is how they pay themselves as the owner, the boss, and this is how they pay you, and this is how they reinvest back into their company. You as an employee should, if the hierarchy is good in your company, should and most likely will be making 3 to 5 times whatever they're paying you. Now, let me back up out of those arbitrary numbers and put in a number that I'm familiar with. I worked for one company. I won't give names, but I worked for one company for a while, and the company, I'm trying my best. Let me see. How should I say this? I was in between two situations, a mix of interning and trying to find my place in this office professional workplace. Now, despite me being there as an unpaid intern, unpaid intern, I was so unpaid. I was out here hopping trains, riding my longboard, and more just to get to work. And I'm not even talking about hopping trains to like, oh, I'm paying, I got my Metro card here. Nah, I'm talking about old school style. I was literally hopping trains, planning it out. Now, I don't recommend anyone taking advantage of any system that they're in. But at the time, I was in a rock between a rock and a hard place. So I say that because despite me being a free intern, this man was charging $75 to $100 for my services. And for his services, he was charging $175 to $200 per hour. So for me, he was charging $125 per hour despite paying me nothing. Nothing. The truth is, you are just the bottom line in making a lot of these people money. Now, I'm not trying to paint employers bad. I'm not trying to say this guy didn't, this boss didn't have, I don't know, some good intentions behind him. But it wasn't all apples to apples. In another case, I've known people to become so content with the minimum wage given that they lose ambition for their life. They're just stuck in a dead end job. Cool. They might be a good employee. Cool. They might be a manager with a mediocre salary, but they hate their life because they too are living paycheck to paycheck because they don't want to advance their own career or they don't know the opportunity that they should take to move forward. This has always been a conundrum, I think, especially in American society. The idea of your worth. But then again, that might have just been a problem of man in general, humans in general. What is your worth? You know, back in the day, I'm sure they wasn't giving out dollars for your time. They might have been giving out, I don't know, a special type of shell or stone. I'm talking about cavemen, like way back. Hop in the way back machine, go back, a few thousand years and see what they were trading in. Of course, we've had gold and precious metals for a long time, so that is that. But with that in mind, not every society, not every local group of people had access to that resources and often had to make up their own form of exchange system, whether they have a monetary system or whether it's some kind of bartering system. Now, going back to this hierarchy, we finished talking about the investor, we've talked about the employer, we've talked about the employee. Let's talk about the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur, it's become more popular these days. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, but no one wants to do the work. Everyone wants this, and everyone is guilty of this in ways. Even I'm guilty of this. Being an entrepreneur is very hard, extremely hard. Takes a lot of investment. Usually your time, definitely. Money of sorts, whether your money, a loan, investor, uh, angel investor money. Sometimes it takes collateral, but the entrepreneur is the one that goes out there initially with the MVP, their most valuable product, or rather, not most valuable product, minimally viable product. Take the minimally viable product and try to sell it for as much as they can in the market. This could be anywhere or anything from a haircut to insurance to maybe someone selling an alarm system. Alarm system is not that great of an example if they're working for a company, but is an example of entrepreneurship if that person is in charge of the individual units and is going out into the world and marketplace to disseminate and disperse them. Now, I also have a story of an entrepreneur. Now, in my college years, I did the entrepreneur route, but this was a bit different in that I knew that I wasn't trying to fully make it a full-time job. I mean, if it did grow into that or a big business or a school, I wouldn't have mind that, but in my personal niche market at the time, which was music theory, musical teaching. I taught the violin. You can go back in the videos and check out those videos on advice on opening a school or even giving some lessons. Because what I did, truth about making money here, is what the employer do to the employees. Now, what I would do as the violin teacher is, of course, I would make money by the hour. But no, no, no. I did not just make money by the hour. That's a very impractical and not very sustainable way of making money. What I did, which many do, is I charged individual rates, which is fairly common in music and in just in the marketplace in general. You know, what I did, I think I charged $20 per child per hour. I think I had anywhere from 5 to 8 children and up to 2 hours. So I could walk away from 1 hour worth of teaching with $160. As a young college kid, hey, that was great money. You know, that was a book. That was my food. That was gas money. That was sometimes enjoying myself, going to a movie, you know, hopping on the train with a real Metro card and paid this time. And this was a very good gig. I enjoyed it, although me being a violin teacher at the time, violin is a hard instrument to teach, and that is very hard on the ears. The screeching with the young kids are very bad, but it was amazing because in each of these blocks, investor, employer, employee, entrepreneur, I learned very different and important lessons. With this entrepreneurship, I learned that me selling my time per hour, honestly, it's not that smart. It's smart in the short term. It's smart if you're, just want to put your head down, get your little check, go home. But that is also why most Americans are in debt and living paycheck to paycheck with no savings. That's exactly why. Because they don't want to take lessons of investing, being an employer, employee, and an entrepreneur to heart. So hopefully you've learned from this cast here. We've been streaming for about 40 minutes here, so I think we're going to be wrapping it up soon. I think I pretty much have said most of which I wanted to say about the truth of making money. The truth is, making money is hard and it's easy. It's the most fun thing that you'll do and the most boring thing that you'll do. It's something that you'll love doing and something that you'll despise. But I will say, no matter who you are, what your profession is, try to enjoy it. Try to take a little bit of bliss in what you do. Hopefully, you can be proud of what you do. Even if it's a blue collar job, a dirty job, white collar, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter your job. As long as you can provide for yourself, your family, and have a good life. And if you don't want a family or any of this other capitalist, consumerist BS, you don't have to. You know, many people out there learn these truths about money and learn how to live minimally. This is also where the popularity and rise of the minimalist movement comes from. The monks, the hermits out there. I guess you could toss in nuns, but those who go back into the wilderness, back into the world, and realize that they need to do something differently. Now, the best thing I will say about learning to live within your means, learning to live minimally, is that you'll be somewhat out of the rat race. We live in an age to where it's, I have to buy this because my neighbor bought that. I have to do this because my friends are doing that. I have to go there because it looks like people are going there. But sometimes it's just as beautiful to live in the country. Maybe you live outside of the city limits, but travel into the city limits for your pleasures. It's okay to remove yourself a little bit from society, from that family bubble, from even your class, to make more money, or even to just turn it off altogether and make none, like nuns and monks in the temples, to where their purpose, their way of life and providing for themselves comes directly from the community. I know that you can succeed. I know that if you did a little research, I recommend, I'm trying to think of some good books here. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. Grant Cardone, The Millionaire Booklet. I also recommend, this book is free. Let me make sure I type his name right. The book is called Swarm Wise. So if you go to, there it is. Okay. Rick Falkvidge. It's called Swarm Wise. Highly recommend this book. If you type in Swarm Wise, that is, I'll type it in right now so we can do this together. SWARMWISE, and then type in Rick. That's his first name. Falkvidge, FALKVINGE. This book PDF into Google. You'll find the book. It's right here. It's the for me it came up as, it looks like the first and the second link. Let me see if it comes up in full here. Yep, there it is. So the first link popped up with the free book, Swarmwise, the Tactical Manual to Changing the World. I'll do my best to put this link here in the description. I'll even drop it in the live chat here. But it's called Swarmwise by Rick Falkvidge. I always mess up his last name. Binge, like hinge. There we go. So that's the Tactical Manual to Changing the World, and I highly recommend it. It's the story of, I believe, the Swedish pirate party, and I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's the story of an independent group who took to a national front stage through their local grassroots effort. So, they knew that they couldn't fully fit in any of these categories of investor, employer, employee, entrepreneur in terms of winning them the election to help change their society. So they took to the streets. They had a nice local campaign. I believe they took it upon themselves as personal individuals in that community, pirate party, to print out the stuff themselves, to utilize as many free resources as possible to get the word out online, and in a way taking an entrepreneurial mindset of self-starting with no capital, no resources, to the grand stage. And eventually, this is spoiling but not spoiling, but eventually the pirate party does and did win that election by banding together with their community in an effort to transform their society. Now, I know that only loosely fits into the truth about making money, but truth is our government does play a huge part in the jobs available, the jobs created, the tax breaks, the write-offs, the incentives provided on almost every level. No way around it. So, my friends, I appreciate you tuning in to this live cast of Apex Fallacy, where we go over the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So, until next time, my friends, this is Sir William Dearden. And if you have any comments, any video recommendations, I recommend you let me know in the comment section below. And I'll do my best to get the video out. And I do advise taking advantage of the video requests. I'm not sure how long I'll let video requests be open to the public, to anyone essentially, for free. I will be converting that over to the Patreon content because I do want that content to be more personal, to be a backup, to be a support and serious conversation to which we can have along with one-on-one consultations and even opportunities eventually to call in onto the show. So, until next time, my friends, this is Sir William Dearden. Be safe out there.